God created us for fellowship with him, but he also created us for fellowship with each other, to be dependent upon God, but to be interdependent upon each other. Part of worshiping God is loving each other. Our relationships with each other matter to the heart of God. In Isaiah 58, God tells Judah the difference between true and false worship. God says that Judah, there are people who seek him, that they delight to know his ways, that they act like a nation that does what is right and does not forsake the justice of God. He says that they ask God for righteous judgments and that they delight in his presence. But then God calls out their sin. So he says, you're doing all the religious stuff right. But then he says that they fast to him, but have contention and strife with each other. He says that they take advantage of the weak and that they use violence when they don't get their way. He says that they're fasting when they do fast and when they do pray, it's only so that they can be seen by God and noticed by God. That should stop some of us, because I was raised thinking that fasting is how I get God's attention. That if you really need something big, you should fast, because then God will pay attention. If there's a miracle you need, start fasting. And what God says in Isaiah 58 is, you fast to get my attention, as if you don't already have my attention. There's something wrong with the way that we think. Something wrong with the way that, in a lot of cases, we've been taught. God goes on and then says this. It's lengthy, but it's important. God says, isn't this the fast that I have chosen? To break the chains of wickedness, to untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free and tear off every yoke. Have you noticed yet already that God says your fasting is not to get my attention, it's to give love to those who are in need of it? Your fasting is not to get me to move. Your fasting is that you would move for the sake of others. The passage continues. Isn't true fasting to share your bread with the hungry? To bring the poor and the homeless into your home, to clothe the naked when you see him, and not to turn away from your own flesh and blood? Then God says this, then your light will break forth like the dawn, and your healing will come quickly. Your righteousness will go before you, and the glory of the Lord will be your rear guard. Then when you call, and the Lord will answer, you will cry out, and he will say, here I am. If you remove the yoke from your midst, the pointing of the finger and malicious talk, and if you give yourself to the hungry and satisfy the afflicted soul, then your light will go forth in the darkness, and your night will be like noonday. God says, you are very religious, but you're far from my heart. That should say something to us. That should say something to our ideals and our belief systems, to what we see around us, and even what we want for ourselves and for our children. Are we more interested in the fast that gets God's attention, or the fast that shows God's glory?